Welcome to the Podunk Polymath, a podcast dedicated to the sentiments of the secular,
sarcastic, southern SJW, and skeptic.
And my name is Amy.
And I'm Nadia.
From the Ginger Snaps podcast.
Come on in, won't ya?
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Sorry, Chris.
Go fuck yourself, Chris.
Welcome to episode 46 of the Podunk Polymath Podcast. Thanks again for joining me. Hope y'all had a spectacular weekend. Let me get the words out. This week, the inaugural Atheist at the Pub took place this past Saturday, July 1st, and I thought it was a success. And I think about, so it's a bit interesting. I had a thing that I set up, but apparently somebody else in another group set up something going on at the same time, and he had put my event in Meetup, and we apparently had two things going on at the same place at the same time, so kind of co-mingled a little bit, but it turned out pretty interesting. I had some good people there. I think from my thing, like 10 people, I think, showed up, so I think it was a success. Had a lot of fun. Not going to name names because I'll fucking forget people because I have a bad memory, but there was a lot of good people. Had a lot of good beer, a lot of good conversation, a lot of laughing, a lot of love, man. A lot of love. So, if you missed it this time, I'm hoping to make this a monthly thing. Don't know, I may move the location. This week Saturday it was at East Nashville Beer Works, but I may move to a more central location. Haven't decided yet. I'll see what kind of response I get, because I want to go to the Yazoo brewery, and I love Yazoo, but we'll see. Anyway, also the intro was read by Amy and Nadia from the Ginger Snaps. Of course, they were on here not too long ago talking about their show and other trans issues. Of course, good friends of mine, and they're funny, and you should go check out their show. And of course, I'll put that link up in the show notes. I just found out, I think it was today or last night, about Trump basically saying, he didn't say it outright, but he wanted to fight CNN. He's just, why? Just why? He's just such a dumbass. I don't even know what to say anymore. And I don't know how I do know how he got elected, but yeah, like I said, I'm speechless. With everything else going on, investigation to Russian meddling in our election, people in his administration and himself dealing with Putin, whatever the fuck his name is. It's just more shit on the shit sandwich. It's like a double shit sandwich, basically, is what it is. So, I don't want to get into that too much because it's even more depressing for me. You might as well enjoy yourself before the world burns down. All right? Yeah, that's great. So, anyway, on the palaver this week, I have two gentlemen, Jude and Warren from Humanist Service Corps. They're in Ghana. Well, they just came back to the States. And we'll be talking about what they did in Ghana, what their work with the Humanist Service Corps entails, kind of the mission statement and all that. I had actually forgotten that I had this interview somehow, because I had this interview a couple months ago, and somehow my memory is so bad that I forgot about it, and then it just for some reason popped in my head. And I'm like, well, goddamn, I never did release that, did I? And I feel really shitty about it because they have a great story. So, and it deserves to be told, and they're doing great work. Of course, Human Service Corps is under Foundation Beyond Belief, so they do good work anyway, and they support a lot of good causes. So, of course, I'll put donate buttons for all that stuff up on the show notes. So, anyway, I hope you all have a great week, and it's time to go to the palaver.
Hi, this is Dan, Ryan, and Matt with the Godless Revolution Podcast. We've had a lot of great guests on this show, such as Russell Glasser, Dan Arrow, Brian Fields, David Silverman, Doug Mesner, a.k.a. Lucian Greaves, and Joey Kirkman, whom we love a lot.
We've also had a lot of really cool local guests. And we're a podcast that likes to fight for the separation of church and state and against anti-skepticism of all kinds.
You should give us a listen, because if you don't, you're going to be really sad.
Make your ears happy. Listen to the Godless Revolution Podcast.
I'm Carly Sturgis, the host of the Token Skeptic Podcast. Since 2006, I've been interviewing people from around the world. Scientists, comedians, artists, and activists. And some of them you might even recognize.
the powers of the placebo are so strong that maybe it's wrong of us to mock.
And we happened to be in London around the time because we were shooting for the war and everything, and we basically made our own little sign, entreating the London commuters to bow down to the Dark Lord Satan, just to try and even out.
Some of them you might like to get to know better after hearing them on the show.
Reading into it for years, I've been interested in the concept of science philosophy and how pseudoscience works. And
it's then very easy for people to just, throw us away and say, well, you don't have a heart, or you're closed-minded, or, and so...
And the origin of the universe and the meaning of life and that kind of thing, because...
it's very real-life music, a lot of real experiences, a lot of vulnerable topics, but at the same time some very silly things. Like one song is actually about Windows Vista.
I'm wondering how I can finish this off now.
Let's break something.
Let's break something. What the hell?
Well, we'll finish it off kind of like Good News Week does.
The Token Skeptic Podcast is a fortnightly online interview show that takes a slightly more skeptical look at the world around us. Head to tokenskeptic.org.
Welcome to another edition of Palaver here on the Podunk Polymath Podcast. This week I have two gentlemen with me who are with the Humanist Service Corps. Join me in welcoming Jude Law, and Warren Tidwell. How y'all doing?
Good. Jude Lane.
Jude Law, Lane. Sorry, man. Well, that's a pretty good compliment.
Well, that's nice.
He's a good actor. He's a dashing fellow. Not that you're not, of course, but yeah. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what y'all do?
Well, we are working in the northern region of Ghana right now, is where HSC, or Humanist Service Corps, is headquartered. We're working in a variety of projects. I, Warren, am working with the reintegration of women who have been banished due to witchcraft allegations to what are known as witch camps in the northern region. And Jude can tell you a little bit more about what he's been doing.
So most of my work has been in the education projects that our partner organizations have had. They have volunteer teachers in some of the rural communities, so we've gone out and worked with those volunteer teachers to improve the way that they're teaching and to make sure that the projects are running smoothly. And then with our new partner organization, we are finding other creative ways to work in the education, to just especially young girls' education, since a lot of times there's a disparity between which girls get to go to school as compared to boys. And so we do a lot of work with helping communities to see the importance of the girls getting education, and then work with parents and communities to improve the education for their different villages.
Okay. Well, first of all, maybe we should kind of backtrack a little bit. What exactly is the Humanist Service Corps?
The Humanist Service Corps is a group of United States and Ghanaian volunteers that are set up, like I said, operating in the northern region of Ghana, and is based upon the tenets of secular humanism. Jude and I are atheists, but we do have liberal Muslim teammates. So it's not just set up just for atheists or secular humanists. It's open to anyone who is willing to come in and work to support other groups and not proselytize. The thing that I liked about Humanist Service Corps is it's all about supporting local organizations and empowering the locals themselves. We do not usually when you see us in our reports and things that we do, it's about the partner organizations that we partnered up with in northern region of Ghana, and so you don't see the Humanist Service Corps name. We're here to work and support only, and I think that Jude will agree with me that that's part of the appeal.
So, like you said, part of it has been the idea of being very much behind the scenes. We don't lead anything. We are not the ones coming in with projects. We partner with organizations that are already here doing nonprofit work, and we ask how we can help their vision, how we can help move what they're already doing, help improve what they're already doing. So in every way you can think of it, we are serving the people in the best ways that the local organizations know how to serve. And I think that's one thing that really stands us apart from other organizations that come here. We see a lot of people here with projects where they're trying to change things, or they are doing projects and then there's no follow-up, where they build a school or some kind of community something, and then it gets left. And we're working very hard to do sustainable work, to lift people in the ways that they want the help, and do it in a way that even if we are gone, the work is still there. And that's the goal.
Okay. Well, are y'all under the aegis of Foundation Beyond Belief? Is that right?
We are. It falls under the umbrella of Foundation Beyond Belief. There's a number of parts of Foundation. There's a Disaster Recovery Corps in the United States, and of course, we are the Humanist Service Corps that falls under that umbrella. Okay,
cool. So y'all obviously do important work out there. I think everybody can appreciate that. Why don't you give me some examples, some specific examples of projects y'all have done that have really kind of stuck with you more than others, perhaps?
I think the biggest thing so far this year, we've managed to be a part of bringing 14 women home from the witch camps. Now, the witch camps are, of course, where they were banished to because of witchcraft allegations, which unfortunately are still prevalent in parts of the northern region of Ghana, as well as throughout the continent of Africa. But the way that works is, working with our partner organization, you have to mediate their return. And so we go out, we do a number of visits through the home villages where the women come from. We set up these meetings that we're able to find out the reasons that it happened, how we're able to support them in bringing them home, and to through the partner organization and supporting them, we're able to get them home, help with housing, with livelihood options and things like that. So to kind of throw all of that out as one big thing, like I said, it's been 14 women so far. Many of the women had been in the camps 30, 40 years, most of their lives. A lot of the women are elderly. So that has been the most satisfying thing when it comes to projects. Now, it's not just, there's a whole lot that goes into it. It's a very sensitive process of doing the mediation part of it, but also getting them back and setting them up with livelihood options of things of having small stores in the villages. Some of them sell the charcoal that they make. They have small stores that sell spices, things like that. But it's also doing the follow-ups afterwards. So there's a lot that goes into getting them home. And we're also trying to change that stigma of witchcraft allegation in the northern region to where that the camps are no longer needed, because they function as a sanctuary for the women. But at the same time, there are a lot of women that want to go home, and there are a lot of women there that are suffering, that are in need. So that's for me now. And Jude can tell you about what he's been working on.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite stories I've heard was not something I did personally, but something that we got to be a part of in our support of an NGO in town, one of the organizations we work with. They had a girl in a small village who her father was trying to. The culture is very different here when it comes to marriage and the marriage process. They have a lot of tradition that plays into it, and part of that tradition had a father trying to get a husband for his daughter by giving his son. So he wanted a wife for his son and a husband for his daughter, and so he was trying to do like a trade, like they were. It was with another family to where he could get a wife with his son, and then because of that, his daughter would marry one of their sons. And I, like I said, I didn't get to be there for it, but I got to go and help with the follow-up, where after they had talked to this man a few times and explained how it was actually better if he was trying to get his kids in school and let them work on maybe the marriage later, but just really talking up how important education was with this one family. And they changed the mind of this man, and now he has 5 kids, and instead of them just being married and going straight into work, they are all in school right now, and he is really happy with it, and he's actually an advocate for education in his village, and it's made a big difference in that village.
Now, how young was the girl?
I mean, probably mid-teenage year. I think about 15, 16 probably.
Because some of our partner organizations do work on things like child marriage. That is an issue that we're still looking at here as well. But again, that's some of our partner organizations. We don't do all the projects that they do together. But that's there's a number of fronts, man. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're involved in here. Those things.
But one thing I did directly this year that I really enjoyed was almost everyone's a farmer in the northern region of Ghana, and so one of our volunteers is actually a farmer himself, and so I went with him to a community that we had built a relationship with, and did agricultural trainings to help them have better crop yield and to help them in how to raise their animals, their chickens, their sheep. And since he knew so much, he's a very successful farmer. He had a lot of information for them. And we did, there were men and women both there that were all farmers trying to improve their family situation. And we got to do trainings and follow up with them on their farms to hopefully help them with next year's yield. And I know for a fact that the people there really appreciated what we were getting to help educate them on. And
didn't you do a savings program and microloan in one of the camps?
Yeah, that another thing that we've gotten to do is in the same village we've tried to work on getting them in the process of saving money. And most of them individually don't have enough to have a bank account. And so we've had to find creative ways to get them to start saving small amounts of money every week, to where eventually the idea is that they're able to open up a community bank account and have leaders who are responsible over it so that they can pay for things that the community as a whole needs. And at this point, they've saved over, I think it's probably close to 6,000 CDs, which is like over $1,000. And for this group of
it's a significant amount here.
200 people, that's a significant amount of money. That's and it can go towards a lot of really good things for the people.
Mm-hmm. Y'all are doing a lot of good work, I have to say. And I'm sure the people you were helping it means a great deal to. And also, I think it's important that y'all teach, like you said, people to kind of be able to do it themselves after you're gone. I mean, it's kind of like the old adage, teach a man to fish, eats for, how's it go? Sorry. Give a man a fish, eats for a day, teach a man how to fish, and he can do it himself. Whatever. I messed that up. But anyway, you see what I'm saying. The whole idea of that is very important. I think a lot of people don't understand that, and I think sometimes our own government doesn't understand that, because in Afghanistan they did a bunch of stuff and built it, and we left. The Taliban ended up taking right back over again. So, I think it's important that NGOs stay around and kind of people stay around to make sure everything's going the way it should. Let's talk about a little bit about the situation in Ghana itself. I mean, I'm not up on the political situation there, but what would you say is the kind of the situation there as far as politics and as far as, just that kind of thing?
I tell you, Ghana is one of the most peaceful countries on the continent of Africa. The interesting thing of coming here as a Westerner is, dispelling all of the stereotypical views of Africa, and seeing that, it's a continent with dozens, I think 54 unique countries. And Ghana it was the first to gain independence in 1957, just celebrated the 60th anniversary of independence. 16 years now of peaceful transitions of power. The Ghanaian people are peace-loving people. It's a wonderful country. In the South, through colonialism, there was a lot more advancements than in the North. So I think you're seeing a side effect of two things in the North, which is where we work and where the traditional beliefs and the witchcraft and the things that as Westerners we look at and we're like, oh, I can't believe that still goes on. Because I don't want a false narrative of Ghana as a whole to be started in discussing these things. People need to understand that Ghana is a pretty great country. I've been to all 10 regions. There's so many different. There's 46 different ethno-linguistic groups, something like that. But it's just such a dynamic culture. It's amazing. The problem is they're still fighting those traditional beliefs and the witchcraft allegations. Politically, the leaders here have to walk a fine line because you still have the chieftaincy set up and the traditional beliefs, and then you have the modern day elected officials. So they still have to respect those old ways while still monitoring or still respect those old ways while still finding a way to work with them with modern day politics. Just had a presidential election last year, and it went very well. Very peaceful transition of power there. So politically, I'd say it's gone really well. And in most everywhere I've been in Ghana, I feel as safe as anywhere I've ever been, even with the things that we deal with, and even with the amount of poverty and the just unbelievable unemployment rate in certain areas. It's amazing to me that it's still as peaceful as it is with all of the need and all the things that we see.
Well, what's causing all that need? Just out of curiosity.
We have 27 million people in a country the size of the state of Oregon. And there's just like anywhere else, the job opportunities in the North, it's all agricultural. So, it's just the availability of the work. And there's a lot of other issues with the country. We have rolling blackouts that affect a lot of the businesses that has been going on the last few years. But it's improved a lot. And Ghana, in a lot of ways, is a great example of things that can go right in a developing country. Because I prefer the term developing country over third world country for a number of reasons. But like right now, we're in very rural northern Ghana, and we're on a video chat with you. The thing about technology here is that smartphones and internet are more available than clean water. So it's a story of contrast, and there's a lot of things that go into the issues that are faced here.
And the northern region specifically has far more issues than the southern region, like we discussed, because of the population, which is mostly in the south. The bigger cities are mostly in the south, and just a lot of history coming together. The northern region has been ignored largely, even by its own government and its own way of running society. And so what you have is in the south, they may have different issues than they do in the north, but the north, what we're here facing are very unique northern issues. The issues of water and education. The issues of the alleged witch camps, a lot of these are very much northern issues, and so part of what we are doing here is working with NGOs who are seeing the disparity difference in the north and the south, and they are working in the north because that's where in this country there's plenty of opportunity, but there's a lot more hardship in a lot of ways in the north, and so it's the place that needs the focus.
So you talk about these. I would be interested to learn a little more about these witch allegations. How exactly does that work?
Well, it's no different than Salem, really. Anyone can be accused for any reason. It's generally elderly women. And with the traditional beliefs, there's a lot of superstition that still abounds. At night, if they see a shooting star, a number of the people still think that that's a witch flying through the sky. And so what happens is, again, a number of different reasons that it could happen. Someone could be jealous of someone else, and all they have to say is they're a witch. Well, at that point, they have to go through a number of trials with the local priests to determine their innocence. And more often than not, of course, they are determined to be guilty. Now, that can be determined in a number of ways. It generally involves slaughtering a chicken, and depending on the position of the chicken, whether it lands with its feet up or down, is the woman. The woman is either guilty or not.
And this is during a whole ritual.
Yeah,
they go to a shrine and they have a fetish priest who is doing this ritual. Many steps involved, and it's talking to the local deity and
the
asking,
local land god.
And trying to again based on which person is there, trying to figure out the guilt level, trying to cleanse the person of these quote unquote evil powers.
Initially they do the determination. The sad thing about it is all it takes is an allegation. They're going to be banished. I mean, that's going to happen whether it says they're guilty or innocent. Now, what I mean by that is if the chicken lands in a certain position and says that they're innocent, well, they won't be beaten. They'll just be banished. Now, if it says they're guilty, they have to flee. A lot of times they're beaten. In the past, they've been killed. I haven't heard of any lately like that. When they arrive in these camps, which are seen as sanctuaries, they have to go through the same thing. And at that point, they're taken to that shrine. And if the chicken says they're guilty, I know that sounds wild, but if it does, then there's a concoction made from goat's blood. They have a lot of different ways of getting them into the camps. Now, when they leave the camps, when we make arrangements for them to leave, however long that takes, then again, they have to go through the same thing. And the priest is paid a specific amount of money for the chicken. And then they're determined to be cleansed at that point, purified, and they're allowed to leave. So going back to the reason the allegations happen, like I said, someone can be jealous of someone. Someone can genuinely think the other person's a witch. Someone can have a dream related to malaria to where they see the person in their dream and they think they're trying to kill them. There can be a death in the village and someone says, I dreamed about that person, and because of this death, I think they're a witch. Then at that point, they go through all of the various trials to determine it. There could be a woman who has a very successful business and a man wants to take her business or thinks that she's affecting his business. Well, she's a witch.
Sometimes you see these stories and there are those that you can tell definitely come from the person's true superstition. You know, they really did have that dream, or they had someone in their family die and unexpectedly, like they had something really happen, and that we have to fight those superstitions, not fight the superstitions, but work through with these people patiently to educate on science and change the stigma of those kinds of allegations. But then we also see times where a person uses this known superstition against someone else, fully knowing that this person did nothing. If there's jealousy or if they just don't like this person, they can use this avenue to get a community to distrust someone for no good reason. And after you have become accused by your community, it's no longer safe for you to be there, no matter if anything has actually happened. And
homes get burned.
Yeah, and at that point, it comes down to a lot of factors of just safety and whether or not your community can still accept you with that kind of distrust.
Certainly.
So they get driven out, and you said that you haven't heard any deaths in a while, but they do get beaten usually, even if they're guilty or not. I find that kind of messed up, actually. So just the accusal itself is enough to get you driven out.
Yeah, I mean they have to flee for their safety, just because of the accusation, because the stigma's there, and it's only a matter of time before they get accused again, or they fear for their safety or something like that. A lot of the women, I mean, these camps are very far removed from a lot of these places where the accusations happen. The thing is this is in a very specific area of the northern region, and so in the South, there are still people who probably believe in witchcraft the same way that, you know, people in the southern United States say that the devil's putting obstacles in their life. You know what I mean? Like the Christians, we still have the strange superstitions in the southern United States, but they don't act on it in southern Ghana, or they don't act on it in central Ghana. It's the northern region where the superstitions of witchcraft allegations are still acted upon.
Wow. Okay. So they get driven out, and you say there's these sanctuary areas where y'all are the ones, those are the places y'all trying to, that's one of your focuses, is to try to get these places have more education, they'd be able to sell things, do the microloans. Why don't you tell me a little bit more in depth what these camps are like, the sanctuaries are like?
There's 7 of them, and a lot of times they're tied to local villages. The one we worked in, the women weren't set aside on one side of a particular village. They were allowed to exist. It's called Kukuo. And they were allowed to exist throughout the village. Now, the locals believe that the land takes the women's power and they don't have any witchcraft power, so they're allowed to exist there. And they're taken in under the control of the local priest and the chief, and they're given a place to stay. And a lot of the women work the farms there. The thing is there's a lot of need in a lot of those villages anyway, but these women don't have a lot of support. So we've managed to work out some support measures for them. The problem is that outside of that, they're not allowed to go very far. And outside of all of that, the stigma's still there. So a lot of people are saying, well, why don't we just shut these camps down? Well, they can't shut them down because it's the only place the women have to go. So we've started talking of them as, like I said, the sanctuary there. The solution to this, with us getting them home, I say that's just trimming the tree back. The solution is to start working on sensitization efforts to have people understand why they have the dreams that they dream of, the people with understanding the health-based, science-based health education related to malaria, and going out and doing these outreach. We don't take a position on witchcraft here. We don't say witchcraft is real, witchcraft is not real. We just work to support the women, and then we work to educate people really on the witchcraft accusations. And I think success in a lot of those areas. Now, like I said, there's 7 camps throughout the I believe we're losing a little bit of connection here. Anyway, and one camp was closed down recently because there wasn't enough women there to keep it going, and it was tied to a village. But at this point in time, I don't see any time soon that there will be a need to close them down. There's a lot of work on education here related to witchcraft allegations that has to happen.
Okay, so it's important that y'all keep these camps because like you said, otherwise these women wouldn't have anywhere else to go. What about the villages themselves? You had mentioned, of course, that they're in poverty themselves, and you had said that you were trying to educate them on science-based issues, so they, maybe kind of trim back the superstition a bit. What are some of the challenges you face in kind of getting rid of the superstition and trying to, get these people to be more, I guess, science-minded, perhaps?
So, there's definitely just, like we said, there's a lot of lack of education and just to the general challenge of basic education for people to where you have other answers, or at least you have the ability to think through situations without giving them magical answers. And then on top of that, one thing that is cultural here that I've heard from friends is that even if there is always a science-based explanation, people might still put a magical reason behind why it happened anyway. And so, you're just it's a slow process that requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of leaning on the right leaders, of talking to the right people. One thing we've done this year is they have things called youth groups, which is really just the adults in a community that are kind of the leaders of that community. And so we've found ways of meeting with them to where you're just helping them think through these situations without having to give the magical answer, or even if they do, finding peaceful ways of working through that answer.
Just getting the ideas out into the communities is the big thing. And also, he mentions youth groups. Youth here is defined a little differently than we would in the United States. It's like from 15 to 50. It's not like young people. So the youth people are just the people who aren't extremely elderly. So in those youth groups, which are generally the people who are respected, a lot of power, or We just try to get
influence.
a lot of influence. We try to get those ideas out into the camps, or I say camps now. They're, like I said, they're tied into the villages. And if you went to the village, you wouldn't know any different of seeing it as any other village in a lot of cases, except for the ones to where they're set aside to one side of the village. But they're still in, like the mud brick homes with the thatched grass roof, as like with everyone else. But it's just like the biggest challenge is the traditional beliefs are so strong here, man. I mean, they're so strong. Coming from the southern United States, I tie a lot of what I see into where I'm from, and I think of all the superstitions my grandparents had back home, and how some of the, you know what I mean, like some of the silly things they did. It just didn't make any sense to me, but it was just such a strong belief in those things, and it's no different here.
Yeah, I'm in the South, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know. Yeah. Well, Jude's from Arkansas. I'm from Alabama, so we're all a bunch of Southerners here.
Oh Lord, y'all on the kind of the worst of the worst.
There you go. We're not Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi. That's the armpit of the nation.
Sorry, Mississippi.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends who are from there, and they would completely agree with me. So.
Yeah, my friends would too. I know what I can get away with.
Yeah. So do you all get any kind of pushback? Kind of the white savior complex, I guess you might say, from the local population at all?
Well, I believe strongly that HSC's way of working through things makes it hard for there to ever be that. I get more issues of white savior talking with each other to make sure we're being critical of each other, talking with people back in the U.S. about what we're doing. I have more of it there because the Humanist Service Corps does not work in the ways that looks like that. We are behind the scenes. Yes. We are not the ones making decisions. I am not in the front of things and any of these projects. We are serving under local leaders, and so the white savior thing is a problem, of course, as far as nonprofit across the board. But I believe very strongly that's why I joined HSC, because of issues like that, where I felt like this organization, what we are doing is very much not that.
Yeah, I tell you, the thing that we get here, there are a lot of brilliant, dynamic leaders in Ghana, and I've met some amazing people in the northern region, and they don't need us telling them what to do or how to do it. It's their culture. And they understand their problems. Just like anywhere else, there's a lot of nuance to the things that go on here that we're not going to understand. So with our training, we need to come in to be learners, to have respect, and work within the local culture, within the context of that culture. So as Jude said, one of the appeals that I found to HSC was the absolute avoidance of that if we can help it. We've tried our best to do that. Now, the pushback from locals, no, man, they love that we're here. Any support they can get, they're appreciative of. Like I said, met some great, brilliant leaders here. They're so welcoming. I can't say enough good things about the people of Ghana, man. I mean, I don't want to give the wrong idea. We're talking about one of their biggest issues with the witchcraft allegations. But in the United States, as in anywhere else, we have some major issues too. And so when it comes to Ghana, that yes, they have problems here. They have people who are causing issues. But I'm happy to say that there are so many wonderful people working to correct their own issues, and all they need is for us to back them up.
And that's awesome. I'm glad y'all are behind the scenes, and I think it's important for a lot of people to understand. I don't know, it seems like anywhere, even here in the U.S., people don't understand. They want to help, but they don't let the people who are being oppressed or being affected by these things, they don't let them kind of step forward. And I guess maybe it's human nature to some extent that you want to help, but sometimes you kind of try to want to help so much that you're basically ignoring the people you're trying to help, and you're putting your own ideas into how they should be helped, and you're not asking them how can we help you? That should be your first question, and you listen instead of you talking over people. So I think that's extremely important. No matter if you're talking about there in Ghana or here in the U.S. with if you want to be an ally to certain communities, like, black community or LGBT community. I think that's a universal concern, or at least I think so. So do you have any conflict with the central government as far as being there as an NGO?
No, I mean, Ghana welcomes in a lot of NGOs from other countries. I mean, we could have a whole other conversation related to the whole approach to anything on this continent right now related to NGOs from outside. But the one problem that we do not have absolutely at all is problems with local governments. I mean, they're happy we're here. The people that I've met have been in various levels. We haven't, met with any of the people who are like in the presidential administration, but at the same time, the ones that I have talked to, they think it's great. I keep on going on about the people of Ghana, but man, they want to see these issues solved. They want to see the problem of witchcraft allegations not be a problem anymore. So anyone who shows up, there's such a respect for the outsiders that is shown here. To a fault, man. I mean, sometimes I have to be like, I'm okay. Like, I'll be at the back of the line. We've talked about this. And they're like, hey, you come up to the front of the line. You go to the ATM first. You know what I mean? They're so great to outsiders, and they're so welcoming that, no, that's not an issue at all.
Well, that's fortunate, definitely. I know in some places maybe you have a little more backlash, but I'm glad there in Ghana that you're not having that issue, and you'll be able to help these people as much as possible, and they're willing to accept that help. I think that's important as well. So do you have any, here's another thing. I assume there are other NGOs there of a religious bent, I imagine. Do y'all have any conflict with them at all?
No, not at all. We don't really. The funny thing, I'll go ahead and tell you about us being non-religious. As Westerners coming here, Ghanaians are kind of like, those Westerners are just strange people. They see us as strange anyway. I had a beard very similar to yours. It got a lot of interesting reactions. Anyway, no, man, where we are, we're so isolated. We're so out there on the edge. And when I say this, I mean, I've put a motorcycle in a canoe and crossed rivers to get to isolated villages. We don't encounter a lot of religious NGOs. I mean, we're out on. That's one thing I also love about HSC. We're going to where the need is, and there are a lot of religious-based NGOs, but I haven't seen a lot of proselytizing, man. And I really, to be honest with you, I think I've encountered maybe one Christian missionary, and I know my teammates, Jude maybe can tell you more, but I was curious coming here if that would be an issue. But really and truly, no one cares. And we don't wear it on our sleeve. You know what I mean? Like, the Humanist Service Corps, as with anyone in my family, I tell them I'm a humanist, it generally goes right over their head. They don't understand what that entails. But at the same time, I mean, when we're just here working and encountering other groups, we're just people, human beings working together, and it's a beautiful thing. And I thankfully haven't witnessed firsthand any of the abuses I've read about with religious NGOs. I know they're out there, but where we are, I haven't seen it. Maybe Jude can speak more to that.
No. We've had conflict with organizations based on other ideals, but I don't even know if I've met an NGO that was specifically religious or pushed that in any way.
No, most of them, now you get into the South, they have a thing here called prayer camps. The Pentecostal prayer camps they're a whole other issue. I mean, it's where there's no mental health system here at all. So anyone who has those issues, they get sent to prayer camps, and most of the Christians are in the southern part. Where we are, that's another thing too. Where we are is 90% Muslim. I should have brought that up. Northern Ghana is a Muslim region, and the South's the Christians. So anyway, that's where you see all of that. A lot of the missionaries down there. So the biggest thing is we just don't encounter them. Now, you would say, how do the Muslims take you being atheists? I'm sure a lot of people wonder about that. Some of the best friends I've made this year. They know I'm an atheist. They're totally cool with it. They're devout Muslims. 2 of our teammates are Muslim, and they're very open. They're very kind. They go to the mosque to pray when it's time to pray, and other than that, they never mention it. So that was another thing that I was worried about, a conflict. But the Muslims here are just like, so you're not religious? Okay, cool.
Yeah, they got other shit to worry about. Like eating and shit. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they it's a survival thing, and I don't want to make it out like the people are struggling to eat here. I mean, I know there's some people take care of each other. It's a very village centric place being here in Africa, and I say it's all about we and not me. So Ghana is light years ahead of a lot of other countries, even with the need that we see here, and even with the places we've been. It's nowhere near as bad as other areas.
Well, I'm curious. You mentioned the Christian-Muslim split in the country. I know there's something like that in Nigeria, although I think it's Christian. Yeah, I think it's Christian and Muslims as well. Is there any conflict, any open conflict between the two at all? I mean, I guess there are borderlands where kind of a neutral zone, you could say, but is there ever any conflict that you've seen or heard of?
No, people live very much in unity, and many people here are even, we talk about how there's traditional beliefs, and then there's also there's Islam and Christianity. Most people, not most, I don't have any exact statistics, but there's a good deal of mixing. So someone might be both Muslim and have traditional beliefs, or they might be Christian and have traditional beliefs. And I've heard there's even times where someone is Muslim, Christian, and traditional. They because of all these religions being here, and the way that Ghanaians live together, and
Muslims and Christians marry here.
Yeah, it's
a different. It's unique, especially with the traditional beliefs being integrated into Islam and Christianity.
Yeah, and if we talk to our Muslim friends about Christianity, they say, well, God talks to them in that way, and that's between them and God. I talked to an Assemblies of God pastor in the northern region. I sat down and talked to him, and I asked him that question. I said, what do you think of Muslims and heaven or God? What are your thoughts there? And he said, well, that's between them and God to decide. I love them, and they do their best to love, and when we have need, we take care of each other. And yes, any of those kinds of conflicts that you might assume come with that kind of mix. There's no clash in that way. They have clashes based on maybe ethnicities, and they have different tribal issues at times in different areas. But as far as religious clashes, I can't think of that happening at all.
The only problem we had when we were here, we started out in Bimbala. And Bimbala has been long known to be an area for chieftaincy disputes. Now, that's what you'll have tribal disputes between, like it says, the various groups. There are three major tribes in the northern region, the Gonja, the Dagomba, and the Kankomba. And the Dagomba and Kankomba were at war 20 years ago. Now they live peacefully. Now, there's still some tensions, but things that you get are the chieftaincy disputes. Now, where we lived in Bimbala, unfortunately, the chieftaincy dispute bubbled over, and they had a good deal of people killed in the clashes there. We were relocated to Yendi, and we'll still go back to Bimbala and visit, because it's just they flare up in pockets here. And again, that's a northern region thing. Because in the southern region, I visited Accra, the capital, and I stayed with a friend there. There's a mosque on the corner. There's a church across the street. Christians and Muslims living, side by side. Whereas as we speak in the Central African Republic, mosques have been destroyed and Christians are killing Muslims right now. But in Ghana, not an issue at all. They live peacefully together.
So you think maybe it's more of a tribal thing, more so than a religious thing, as far as conflicts?
I think so. Well, definitely with conflict. Yeah, all the conflict is tribal here. But I think the peaceful nature of it comes about is the mixing of the traditional African beliefs with Islam and Christianity. I think it kind of there's a little bit more similarities together. Whereas someone I know in Alabama who's a Christian would think that a Muslim from the Middle East is a certain way, not knowing their way of life or anything. Well, these guys share a way of life side by side together every day.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. But Christians here aren't so tolerant of Muslims, at least in the South, I think. Of course, again, I think it's one of those things where if you're not used to being around people of different religions or different ethnicities even, that they're kind of viewed as the other. And there's not more, I think that's a lot of the problem here. I mean, you see an example as in the LGBT community, people, when they started understanding that they actually had friends or coworkers or whatever that were, gay or lesbian or, whatever, they started, hey, these are not evil people. These are just regular people, And I think it's important that we kind of understand that we're all, I mean, it sounds a little cheesy, that we're all humans, and ultimately we're trying to, generally speaking, achieve the same goals of happiness and, wanting to be peace, just left in peace, or whatever. So I'm glad to see that there's that kind of intermixing, that kind of understanding there. And I think, unfortunately, here in the States, that's not always the case. And I also found it funny that you said that, it's between you and God. It's too bad we can't follow that same dictum here and, always trying to tell other people what they should be doing as far as their religious beliefs. But, that's a whole different story. So, let me maybe we should get a little more of your personal backgrounds. That's probably something I should ask to begin with. But what are y'all's where are y'all coming from as far as your personal lives or whatever?
Well, for me personally, it's kind of cool that you did that, because I think Jude and I both would rather talk about the Humanist Service Corps and what it means to us. But I have a background in volunteer disaster relief. I've started a lot of grassroots disaster relief efforts. When the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa was hit by a tornado in 2011, I took a bunch of Auburn University fans there to work, and I thought that we would just be doing some cleanup. I come from the area northeast of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I just thought it'd be a nice gesture. Well, it went viral, and over 100,000 people joined the Facebook page, and we ended up having a pretty significant impact, and it was a really amazing experience. And even before that, I spent 2 years as a volunteer in Hancock County, Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina, where the ground zero of the natural disaster that was Hurricane Katrina hit. It was I learned a lot back then, and I learned a love of humanitarian work and finding meaning in service. I think that's the biggest thing. I actually left my job in Alabama to come do this at 37 years of age, and half my family thinks it's awesome. The other half think I'm nuts. But I have a wife and son that I haven't seen since last July. My son's 9 years old. And thankfully, with the technology, I'm able to do video chat. I'm able to talk to them every day. My wife's in childhood development, and I have a good friend who's written books on raising children. And they felt it would be a good time in his life for me to be away. So I made the decision to do it. And thankfully I did, because I got to meet some really amazing people here. I tell you, man, it's been one of the toughest but most rewarding years of my life, and I got to meet, like I said, some really awesome people like Jude here, who will tell you all about himself.
I grew up in Arkansas, but I've been living before here for a while. About 5 years I'd been living in Springfield, Missouri. I was going to school there, and then as far as work goes, what I did before, I was working in an emergency home for children, for minors between 0 years and 18 years old. So basically all walks of life with these kids, and they were in the state system, foster care system, and or they were homeless. Sometimes it was older children, 17-year-olds, even 18-year-olds who came in and just didn't have a home. And I worked there, took care of kids, and we had about 20 kids at a time, and they came in and out. They stayed with us for about 30 days on average, and so over the course of a year, you take care of 300 different kids, and you do your best to help them. And while I was there was a Skepticon that came through, and I went to the Skepticon and saw the Foundation Beyond the Belief table, and asked them if they had, nonprofit international work as an option. And I was introduced to Humanist Service Corps. I looked into it and liked the vision and the ideas of it, the ideals that they were trying to hold to, and decided that I wanted to be part of that. Decided that it was something that was worth being a part of. And so now I'm here.
And for me, now, I was miserable in my job that I had, and I hated it, and I wanted to do something different. And I knew that I wanted to work in service, and I had a friend send me the article, and I thought to myself, I said, well, that'll be nice for someone to do. It seems like a wonderful organization. I mean, I love, like you said, the ideals, the ideas of service and what non-religious service means, and what secular humanist service means. And so my wife talked to me about it, and she was like, military spouses are apart far longer and won't get to talk near as much as we do. She said, and I know you're very unhappy what you're doing, so, please consider this. I think you would really do it. And I can't say enough good things about her. She's obviously a wonderful person to be back home taking care of everything. But at the same time, I'm also writing a book on my year here working in camps, and I'm going to continue as working with HSC through social media after this year as a virtual volunteer through working back home. So I want to see it grow, man. I want to see. I think Connor Robinson is the executive director, and this was his baby. This was his idea, and I think that I believe in what he sees for this. I love his vision for it. And I think it's needed. I think that there's a lot of people like Jude and I out there who, we don't want to go to church and we don't want to, take part in all of that. And he and I both were Christian in our youth. And, it was just a dream come true for me, because even in my old volunteer times, it all came down working in the southeastern United States to where do you go to church, or what church group are you with? And it ended up costing me a lot of opportunities to work with people because they couldn't wrap their head around an individual wanting to do this in service to other people. And so when I read about all of it and found out that, what Connor's vision for this was and what HSC actually is, like I said, man, it's been a dream come true for me personally.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention they look at you as you have two heads in the South if you say you're an atheist or whatever. And a lot of places, even if I've heard cases of atheist groups trying to give money to causes and they refuse to take it just because they're atheists. And I think that's horrible. Alabama has enough shit going. I mean, the poverty there is just, and I don't want, of course, it's the same way in a lot of places, but Alabama seems to be, because my dad was stationed down there in Montgomery, and I drove through some of those rural areas. It was just horrible. I mean, they're literally shacks some of these people live in. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, I dare say, you're in Ghana, I dare say some of those villages maybe even better upkeep than some of the places in Alabama. I mean, it's, so it's pretty bad. And I'm glad y'all are, like I said, I can't say enough good things about people like y'all, especially being secular humanists. I mean, of course, the stereotype is, well, what do you don't believe in anything. What are you doing? I mean, what keeps you from killing people or, doing all these horrible things? And, I kill as many people as I want, which is exactly zero, I believe. Yeah, I heard that before. So, and you all are providing a good example to other people. I think that, humanists are capable of this, and we are also capable of, because humanism is not just, a secular thing. There's also, religious humanists as well. And I'm sure you know about some of them. They don't proselytize. They just do what y'all are doing. They just happen to be different religions. And I think that's this kind of interfaith and non-faith, I guess you could say, kind of alliance is going to go a hell of a lot more, do a hell of a lot more for humanity, thus the humanism, than the infighting and the outfighting we have with some of these groups to try to actually achieve trying to get humans, in better shape instead of fighting against ideal, beliefs.
I was going to say, I've run into a lot of atheists who don't understand it either, and a lot of skeptics. And I tell people I have an atheist brain, but I have a humanist heart. And I don't get into that too much, you know. And I mean, there are separation of church and state issues that people can fight, and I will support them when I can. And, you know, there are people out there who are, you know, arguing with the apologists and doing all that stuff. And for me, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's multiple fronts when it comes to changing. We talk about changing stigmas here. We have to change the stigma in the United States of non-believers. And that's a big reason I do this too. I talk a lot about my son. I don't want my son to deal with some of the things that I've dealt with. I mean, I lost a job in Alabama because I'm an atheist. So, I mean, those things have to change. I mean, to me, that's an extremely silly thing. But you and I both know how people in the Bible Belt, you know, see non-believers. So I think that, you know, that is a part of changing that. That is because a lot of people have this idea of the angry atheist. You know, the atheists out there just want to take prayer out of schools, and they want to, you know, take down these monuments and do all this stuff. And they don't, of course, understand the reasoning behind the separation of church and state and all that. But at the same time, you know, they don't understand it. As we speak right now, Foundation Beyond Belief, their Humanist Recovery Corps is working in Louisiana because of the floods that happened last year. There's still a lot of work to be done. So they have teams working there right now. I mean, and they're all non-believers. And so, you know, you've got us over here. And I think that it's setting an example to not only to Christians, people of religion and all of that, but also changing that stigma of non-believers to other non-believers, and to, you know, maybe the young kids who are thinking like I was and had questions are saying, you know, hey, these people are okay. They're doing really nice things, and I don't have to have religion, and I don't have to have these things to go and work in service to someone else or do humanitarian work. And so that's the change that I hope to see.
Exactly. And I talked to Mark Nebo not too long ago on another episode. He's the head of the Normalized Atheism campaign. And we were talking about that kind of, you know, the idea that we just kind of need to get the word out there that we exist, not something. And he said, you got these T-shirts that say #normalized atheism, and basically just wear it, just wherever you're going shopping or doing whatever. Get people used to the idea that we're out there just doing regular shit, not, you know, sacrificing babies to Satan or anything like that, you know. So when is y'all? Did you say you were there for a year? Is that right?
July 2016 to July 2017. Jude and I fly out July 1st back to the U.S.
And y'all going back to the wondrous South, I suppose?
Actually, Jude and I are stopping in Egypt for a couple of days and going to see the grain silos. The pyramids.
Well played. That's cool. But y'all eventually will come back here, I assume.
Oh, yes.
I hope we can, you know, maybe we can get together sometime. You're in Northeast Alabama.
I'm in East Alabama, but it's not far.
I'm in Nashville area, Middle Tennessee area, so, you know.
Go Predators.
Exactly, yeah. I'm glad you can keep track of that. It starts Monday, actually. We're going to beat those Penguins, I hope. It's going to be a tough road, though, I'll be honest with you, so. Anyway, yeah, I really appreciate y'all coming on. And again, I'm not trying to kiss your ass too much, but yeah, I really appreciate what y'all are doing. And I think it's important, again, to show that atheists aren't just baby killers. And, you know, we don't go around, you know, just telling everybody what they, you know, keep their religion out and all that, put up billboards and stuff like that. So,
right.
Do y'all have anything that other than the Humanist Service Corps? Why don't you give the listeners kind of a where to find the Humanist Service Corps and stuff like that?
Well, you can go to foundationbeyondbelief.org, and you can read about a number of their programs. We are there as well, and then we are also humanistservicecorps.org. You can find us there as well.
Now, aren't you on Facebook?
Yes, Humanist Service Corps is on Facebook. They just search Humanist Service Corps. We're there. We're on Twitter. We have a number of blogs that we do through Foundation Beyond Belief that talks about the work that we do here. There's a lot of material online about it.
Yeah, on our Facebook page, I mean, if people are curious about more specific work that we've done, if they want to get to follow the work as it goes through the year, volunteers are the ones posting stuff. We're the ones we're out in the communities, and then we are getting to share that back home through the Facebook page with what we're doing day to day. And so it's definitely a cool way to get to follow all the awesome work that we're getting to be a part of, and
all the things we've encountered as a result. I mean, I ended up finding an African football legend, and he lived in poverty in Bimbala, and managed to. He went to a World Cup qualifier with me, met with the head of the Footballers Association, got with the union. Now he's getting his pension, and I had a front row seat for that, man. It was so cool.
Yeah, it's always great when you get to help people achieve things that they wouldn't have been able to achieve, by themselves. Maybe just give them a helping hand, and not look for any sort of recognition or anything like that, just because it's it's the right thing to do or whatever. Again, I just I think what y'all are doing are great. I can't say it enough, because you're making atheists actually look like decent people.
Well, the key is, the key is the support of the program. If you believe in the work that HSC is doing, and if you want to see it grow, I mean, it needs to. And I believe in it. I know Jude believes in it, and they're doing it for the right reasons. The leadership, I don't know of many organizations that is operated as well as Foundation Beyond Belief, man. What they do with the funding they receive is amazing. And I mean, they give grants, like I said, with the disaster relief, HSC, there's Beyond Belief Network teams. You can find out about all that on foundationbeyondbelief.org. And I tell you what, man, you say that, but Jude will agree with me here, man. I feel so fortunate to be a part of this. I mean, I really do. I think it's cliched as hell to say, but, I'm a lucky man to be a part of this. And I feel very fortunate to have been chosen.
Good deal, man. I'm glad y'all are there, and as you're part of a bigger thing, I guess you could say, and you're helping people out. I mean, what else could you really hope for? Except for the Predators to win the Stanley Cup.
There you go.
We all won. But yeah, thanks for coming on the show, and I hope to hear more from you. And I'm going to you just talked about Foundation Beyond Belief. That's right. I'm sorry. And I need to put up the donate. I'm sure people need to donate. I'm sure they're always looking for funds.
Yeah, and something that Foundation Beyond Belief does that is really cool is you can go on there and choose where your money goes. Since they have so many different projects and programs, if one doesn't fit, if one doesn't fit where your heart is, or if one maybe for one reason or another, if you only want to give to certain things, Foundation Beyond Belief is set up for that. And but I promise, if you get on there and if you have an open mind and heart, you'll find a way. You'll find something that FBB does that is worth your investment.
Well, I think y'all definitely are worth an investment. And I may or may not put some. Just don't spend it on anything extravagant. Okay.
Okay. We're a very small organization, and right now we're doing a drive for used laptops for new volunteers. We have a number of Ghanaian volunteers on our team, so we're going to have, I've been told, 4 Ghanaian volunteers next year, and so that equipment goes a long way. So I mean, those old laptops that are functional that you may not think anything of, and think that they may not be of use, they will be put to great use here. And you can find out how to support that, like I said, foundationbeyondbelief.org with it as well. But thank you for having us on, man. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been good to talk. It's kind of cool that you get to talk to somebody on Skype in fucking Ghana.
I know, yeah. I mean, it's cool for us to talk to someone.
All right, y'all. Well, again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for what you do, and keep up the good work. That'll do it for this episode of the Podunk Polymath Podcast. I want to thank Warren Tidwell and Jude Lane for coming on and talking to me about their work at the Humanist Service Corps. I really admire guys like those who go over there and do that stuff, because I don't know if I could in a situation like that. No internet, very little internet, I guess. And no amenities, man, I don't know. I'm pretty lazy, so I don't know if I could do it. So hats off to them for being able to do stuff like that. And it makes humanists, atheists, look better and make people realize we're not baby-killing Satan worshipers. So that's good. Of course, if you want to come check out the show, you can come to the podunkpolymath.com. If you go on over to the About page, you'll see some of the links here for the show links. We have ... the people who did the music as at cdbaby.com/cd/... Of course, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Google+, and Twitter under the Podunk Polymath. If you want to email me, it's podunk.polymath@gmail.com. If you want to become part of the Patreon posse, you can go to patreon.com/thepodunkpolymath. If you want to call the phone number, it's 615-378-POPO-7676. If you want to join the Podunk Polymath Podcast Posse Facebook group, you can go to facebook.com/group/the Podunk Polymath Podcast Posse, all separated by periods, those words in the last part. And of course, there's now an online store at zazzle.com/podunk_polymath. If you go to the sidebar there, you can follow me on WordPress, look at my tweets, and follow my Twitter account. Donate via PayPal, subscribe on RSS, Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. And there's a Patreon button, as well as recent posts and recent comments. In closing, I wanted to say what a great time I had at the Atheists at the Pub. I'm going to do it again, hopefully a monthly affair. And if any of y'all didn't make it out in the Nashville area, or if you want to come in from other places, because why wouldn't you? It's just that awesome. Check it on out. If you come down, if you can, it's good times. We atheists need to stick together before they kill us all. So anyway, that's a bit dark. But until next time, y'all take it easy now, okay?